Have you ever wondered why people from Brazil get annoyed when Americans call their country America? Or why your geography teacher always emphasized North America and South America as separate continents? Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating naming controversies in modern history. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never think about the word America the same way again. What if I told you that calling the United States America is technically incorrect, according to most of the world? And what if the reason behind this goes back over 500 years to a German mapmaker who made a decision that would spark centuries of debate? Let's start with something that might blow your mind. When Christopher Columbus made his famous voyage in 1492, he never actually knew he had reached a new continent. He died believing he had found a route to Asia. It wasn't until another explorer, Amerigo Vespucci, figured out that these lands were completely separate from Asia that everything changed. But here's where it gets interesting. A German cartographer named Martin Waldseemüller was creating a world map in 1507, 15 years after Columbus's journey. He needed to name this new continent, and instead of honoring Columbus, he chose to name it after Amerigo Vespucci. But Waldseemüller made a crucial decision that affects us today. He used the feminine form of Amerigo's first name, calling it America, following the tradition of other continents like Europa and Asia. Now pay attention to this detail because it's important. Waldseemüller was naming the entire landmass, not just a small portion of it. This massive continent stretched from what we now call Canada all the way down to Chile and Argentina. The name America was meant for everything. Fast forward a few centuries, and European colonists started establishing settlements throughout this vast American continent. The Spanish claimed huge territories in the south and west. The Portuguese took Brazil. The French settled in parts of the north, and the British established colonies along the eastern coast of what would become the United States. When the British colonies decided to rebel and form their own nation in 1776, they faced a naming problem. They weren't just one colony, they were 13 separate colonies uniting together. So they called themselves the United States of America. Notice that crucial word of they were the United States located within America, not claiming to be America itself. But something interesting happened over the next few decades. As the United States grew in power and influence, especially after the Civil War and into the 20th century, Americans started dropping that little word of when referring to their country. Instead of saying they were from the United States of America, they simply said they were from America. This is where things get complicated for the rest of the continent. Imagine you're from Mexico, which is technically part of North America, or you're from Colombia, which is part of South America. When someone from the United States says they're American, it can feel like they're claiming ownership of your entire continent. Think about it this way. It would be like someone from Germany calling themselves European and expecting everyone else in Europe to find a different term for themselves. People from France, Italy, and Spain are all European too, right? They wouldn't appreciate Germans monopolizing that term. This is exactly how many Latin Americans feel when people from the United States call themselves Americans. They argue that Mexicans, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Canadians are all Americans too, because they all live in the Americas. The confusion gets even deeper when you consider how different parts of the world teach geography. In the United States, students typically learn about 7 continents, with North America and South America being separate. But in many Latin American countries, students learn about 6 continents, with America being one unified continent that includes everything from Alaska to Chile. This difference in education creates fundamentally different worldviews. If you grew up learning that America is one continent, then hearing people from just one country claim the name America for themselves feels wrong and even insulting. The linguistic evidence supports this continental view too. In Spanish and Portuguese, the word for people from the United States is estadunidense, which literally means someone from the United States. They reserve the term Americano for anyone from the American continent. Similarly, in French, people from the United States are called Etats-Uniens rather than Americans. But here's where it gets really interesting from a psychological perspective. Language shapes how we think about the world. When people from the United States consistently call their country America, it reinforces the idea that they are the center or the most important part of the American continent. This can come across as cultural imperialism to other nations. The European perspective adds another layer to this debate. Most Europeans learned geography with America as one continent, so when they hear Americans, they might think of anyone from the New World, not specifically people from the United States. This is why in international settings, you'll often hear people carefully say the United States rather than just America. Let's talk about some real-world consequences of this naming controversy. In diplomatic settings, using imprecise language can actually cause offense. When former President Trump referred to America in speeches at international summits, representatives from other American nations sometimes felt excluded from discussions about American interests and American values. The business world faces this challenge too. When American companies expand globally, they need to be careful about their messaging. Saying we're bringing American innovation to the world can sound exclusionary to potential customers in Mexico, Brazil, or Canada who also consider themselves American. Social media has amplified this debate in fascinating ways. Hashtags like America versus United States can spark intense discussions, with people from different countries sharing their perspectives on what these names should mean. But let's be practical for a moment. Language evolves through usage, and in English, America has become synonymous with the United States through centuries of common practice. Most English dictionaries now list the United States as the primary meaning of America, while acknowledging the continental meaning as secondary. This creates a linguistic dilemma. Should language reflect historical accuracy and geographical precision, or should it reflect how people actually communicate? There's no easy answer, and both sides have valid points. Some countries have tried to address this diplomatically. The Organization of American States carefully uses Americas in its name to be inclusive of all member nations. Similarly, many international documents refer to the Americas when discussing the continent to avoid the ambiguity. Looking ahead, this debate isn't going away anytime soon. As global communication increases and cultural sensitivity becomes more important, we might see more careful language use in international settings. Some American companies and politicians are already adapting by saying United States more frequently in global contexts. The younger generation, especially those learning multiple languages or studying abroad, tend to be more aware of this issue. They are more likely to use precise language and understand why the naming matters to people from other American nations. So what's the takeaway here? Words have power, and names matter more than we might realize. When we understand why people from other parts of the Americas might feel excluded by certain language choices, we can communicate more effectively and respectfully. The next time you're in an international setting or talking with people from other American countries, consider using United States instead of just America. It's a small change that shows cultural awareness and respect for the shared heritage of the American continents. The naming of America reflects broader questions about identity, belonging, and how language shapes our understanding of the world. Whether America means one country or two continents depends on where you learned geography, what languages you speak, and how you view the relationship between nations and continents. What do you think about this debate? Are you Team United States or Team America? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more content exploring the fascinating stories behind the world we think we know.